My name is Grace Widdicombe. As it says on the screen, I am a wholesaler. I am the owner of Oregon Real Estate Investors Association, and I just decided that we need to have a class going on monthly about wholesaling. There's a lot of interest in the subject, and I think it would really help this economy out if we had more people out there finding distressed properties and wholesaling them to flippers. So with that said, let's go ahead and introduce yourselves. Torin, you're the only one I don't know who that is that's on here right now. So please, if you can turn on your camera, please do so. Thank you very much. It's much more fun to talk to people. Hey, Kate and Yanli.
Hey, hi. Hello.
There's Matt and Brenda. Hi.
Hello.
David, do you have a camera?
No camera, no.
I had a feeling you'd say that. Okay, I'll let you pass. Torin. Do you have a camera?
There, sorry, trying to get the video to work.
Ah, okay.
So I'll turn it on when I get it to work.
Okay. All righty. Sounds good. So I want to talk about wholesaling 101 or wholesaling, and this is like what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to cover as much as we can in an hour's period, but wholesaling is a deep subject. So it's not going to happen in an hour. All right. How many of you read books on how to wholesale?
You can talk.
Brenda did, yeah.
Yeah, we're reading some. I've watched some online stuff as well. So it's just tough when, I think, Grace, I've told you before, it's tough when probably 25 to 30% of what they're talking about isn't necessarily going to work for our region because it's like Midwest or East Coast or specific state specific to what they are presenting. So
we're going to try to stick to subject and of course do what I know and I hear in Eugene, Lane County and that kind of stuff. But I also find that you buy a book on wholesaling and they talk a whole lot about other stuff in real estate and a whole lot of other stuff, and I'm going to try to keep it to what you need to know. All right, because yes, real estate is a very vast topic, and so there's a lot that we could get off track on. I have a PowerPoint that's just for the beginning part of this here. Let's see here. Where is it? And of course, there we go. Now I need to share screen. I don't see the right screen anywhere. Great. Try that again. I got too many screens going, guys. All right, let's see. So how many of you have thought, you just raise your hand or chime in, that
Yeah, we got it.
the way to get started in real estate is to become a wholesaler? Have you kind of thought that? Yeah. The one thing I will say about that is a good way to get started in real estate, to start getting some cash, right? It in wholesaling, it can take money to make money. because you're going to have to market. So if you are good at talking to people and handing out your cards and knocking on doors, that's the cheapest way to go. But it can get more expensive with mailers and that kind of thing. But phone calls, you can do phone calls too, and that's inexpensive. But getting started in real estate as a wholesaler means that you got to learn a lot of stuff. Let's see. Let's click here. Yes, I gotta like change screens here somehow. Okay. There we go. There's a lot of things you can do in real estate. These are just a few that you'll find that people do in our club: wholesaling, flipping houses, buy and hold, have some investment property, invest in other people's investment properties, the OPIP, house hacking, moving into a house, fixing it up and then selling it, that kind of thing. And then investing in real estate investment trust, which is like a conglomerate of other investors. And in that case, you're probably not going to be investing in the local area, but we're going to stick to basically wholesaling and flipping, because as a wholesaler, you need to know how to flip. You have to know some basics about flipping. So what is wholesaling? Basically, wholesaling is getting a property under contract. The seller, you meet the seller, you write up a contract, the seller signs it and you sign it. Now you've got a contract to buy a property. In that contract, you're going to have the famous and or assigns comment after your name or your business name, or if you make up a trust name, you're going to still have and or assigns after it. A little tidbit about Oregon is that all contracts in Oregon are assignable. All contracts are sellable, assignable contracts. So if you ever feel like that's not legal, it's under Oregon law. It is just expected to be assignable, okay? So you get with your escrow agent and that kind of stuff, you can ask about that, but that's how I learned it, is through my escrow company. Okay, next step is to get permission to show the property. You're going to have to make sure that's in the contract, probably, that you have permission to show. In my contracts, I say by such and such date, you will let me have availability to go in, me or my funders, me and my funders, whoever, inspectors, funders, whatever. So that's what you want on your contract, but you want to get permission to show the property, because how are you going to sell the contract if you can't show the property? And then next is you got to get people to look at the property. And then once you get somebody who's interested in the property, you don't be stingy about showing your contract, even though you're going to maybe sell that contract for $20,000, meaning that the contract, say you have a contract to buy a house for $180,000, but you're selling the contract for $200,000, meaning that 180 will go to the seller and 20,000 will go to you. Does that make sense? Makes sense so far, right? So
Can I ask a question?
Yes, I can't see you guys right now. I got screens just covered up. So go ahead.
Okay, so when you get the property under contract, what kind of time frame do you have to sell that property once you got it? Does it vary?
It does vary, and it's a very good question. I know wholesalers that say they put that end date, that sale date, out as far as possible. So I kind of find that interesting, because what is all our wholesaling advertising say? We buy fast, we buy with cash, right?
Right.
And then they'll put that contract out 3 months, 6 months, something like that, in order to get as many funders or potential buyers to buy it. It gives them more time to get it out in the marketplace and that kind of stuff. I usually put like a month on mine, but if I have a situation where I can tell that the seller is just really, their goal is to get it under contract and be relieved that it's under contract, and they don't really care when it sells. When it's sold, then I can push it out 45 days, 60 days, that kind of thing. And it also depends on the time of the year. Like right now, I have some properties in contract that are covered in snow for the winter time. So the seller is not really in a big hurry and understands it takes a bit of work to get people out to see it.
Okay. And then as far as showing the property, can I have open houses?
You can.
Okay.
Yeah, you can. You can have open houses. Well, I'll get to that under when you're selling the contract side of this. But this is just a brief part here of just the overview of what wholesaling is. So the next thing is to sell the contract. So once you sell the contract, you have another piece of paper that you're selling this contract that you have with so-and-so for such and such address to Joe Blow, who's now going to close on such and such date. And I will list in that piece of paper where I want them to close at.
Hey, Grace.
Yeah. Who's
Quick
this?
question. Sorry, quick question for you. It's Kevin.
Hi, Kevin.
Hi. So, quick question for you on the show contract piece. I've always learned that you want to try to steer clear of showing the contract you have with the seller to any buyers, especially when the numbers work and you have a decent return to yourself on that. You don't want to be showing that to sellers because then that could really turn them off, hence like the double close. And so why would you not want to be stingy with the contract, especially in those type of cases?
Okay. I can go there right now. What I'm trying to say here is I have bought properties from wholesalers who don't realize that they're selling me the contract. They're not selling me the property. They are actually selling me the contract. And so what am I buying? I want to see that contract because I am now going into contract with that under that contract's terms, right? So I need to see that contract before I say I am actually going to do it. Okay, so I figure out that the guy's making $15,000 off of me. Does that really bother me? No, it doesn't bother me at all because I already agreed to the price that I'm getting it at.
Fair, but would it bother you if they were at 50?
Again, we just had this discussion. Who were we talking to, Kevin, just the other day?
I think it was Chris talking about how the wholesaler went back to the seller to then get a better price so that they can have a bigger return. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying like if I were to talk to a person, we came up with a deal for me and the buyer, or me and the seller, and the numbers worked for me to get a $40,000, $50,000 return and still be a good deal for the buyer.
Yeah.
That type of money coming to me would generally turn off a seller, wouldn't it?
So the seller is not necessarily going to see that part.
Okay. So that's not the contract you're showing. You're not necessarily showing the contract between you and the buyer.
So let's, okay.
Sorry, I'll wait. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to derail you.
Let's label everybody. A is the seller. B is the wholesaler. C is the end buyer. Okay. All right. I'm going to, between A and B, I'm the middle guy, right? I'm the wholesaler. A and B, we're going to see one contract. Okay. But between B and C, the end buyer, they're going to see the original contract, which is what I'm selling them, and the amount that they're paying me.
Okay. I just wanted to clear that up because it sounded like I'm showing them the original contract that I have with the seller, and then they'll be able to deduce what it is I'm getting and then just throw a fit.
Yeah, so there's so the buy between A and B, there's a contract and it's all about the property, okay, and the price and the closing date and the closing place and all this kind of stuff, right? And there's that price. All right. Then I go out and advertise the contract for sale for an additional $30,000, right? So that now, so let's say it was $130,000. I'm selling it for 180. Okay. How's that sound? I'm making 50,000 now. So that assignment paper will have on top of it, it says, this constitutes that I'm selling you this contract between buyer or seller, which is selling the property at 130, and you are paying me $50,000 for the privilege of closing it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so
Yep.
the end buyer has two contracts that they're going to see. One they're signing, which is between me and them, and it has my gift of the wholesale deal. Okay, it has my share of the profit. The assignment fee is what it's called, the assignment fee. And so it says that amount on it, and it also references the contract. Okay. Okay. That's I'm selling the contract that's between A and B, and that sales document is the assignment fee document. Okay. Ready to move on?
I have one more question.
Yes.
Sorry.
Go
So
ahead.
did you tell the seller, the wholesaler tell the seller said okay, I only buy your contract, or find another buyer to buy your contract. You let them know? They will know it, yeah.
Okay, so I think I'm going to rephrase your question. I think what you're saying is,
The seller
do I tell the seller that I'm selling the contract? That I'm
yes.
making a profit?
Yeah.
Many times I tell them that.
Okay, they know and they understand that.
So, but the way my contracts are written, and I say that I'm getting funders. So, and then I tell them that some of my properties I keep and work on myself, and some of the properties I share with other investors.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So it's just a common thing. Yes, I do buy houses. Some of them I keep and work on myself, and others I sell to other contractors or other flippers. It's really an awesome time right now because of all the HGTV shows, and everybody knows what a house flipper is, and so that's why now I have Oregon House Flippers as one of my business, because back when I started, a house flipper was a ugly word. It was like that can't be legal, you know, but thank you HGTV and DIY Network for letting everybody know that it is legal. See, excuse me, I got off track there. All right, so the first thing that the wholesaler is going to do is find distressed properties. They're going to go, yeah, you could look on the MLS for distressed properties. I personally never look on the MLS for distressed properties, because if it's on the MLS, then everybody's seeing it already. The only way I would do the MLS, so I get a real estate broker to send me leads, and then I let that real estate broker know, because they have the service of the RMLS, let them know what I'm looking for. And this is particularly helpful for me in the multifamily investment situation and I do want multifamilies. But I would tell that real estate broker, only send me leads that have been on the market for more than 6 months. So that way I know that there's the one thing that's wrong with the house is the price. And then I would go calling that seller and get the price down and talk some sense into them. But that is not my way of finding distressed properties. I just say that right off the bat. Other places you could look to find distressed properties is look on Craigslist and social media like Facebook Marketplace, and look for people trying to sell their houses there. Some people do find houses there. It's also a good place to find some buyers. So like if when you list a house, put it out there on Craigslist and social media and that kind of stuff to build your buyers list, but that's later down the road. Auctions. Okay, so there's a lot of, we're coming into auction season again, and the reason I say that is because of the COVID moratoriums on mortgage companies collecting their mortgage payments for those years of COVID, and they extended, and then they extended deadlines for you to pay your mortgage. And now these people that couldn't afford their mortgage during COVID or even before COVID, because there were auctions starting. I mean, there's always an auction pipeline, all right? There's an auction pipeline, and what happened with that pipeline when COVID hit, it shut down. So there are people that couldn't afford their houses before COVID. They certainly can't afford it now. And now the pipeline's building up again, and that is a good place to find houses. Wholesalers, whether they're in Portland or Seattle, that are looking at this area here, are watching they're watching Lane County's auctions, they're watching Douglas County auctions, they're watching Lynn County auctions, Marion County, they're all over Marion County. They're all over the Bend area too, Deschutes County. So you have to learn how to track auctions, basically. The thing about auctions, though, is if you're going to go to an auction, you got to have the money with you. So you're going to have your hard money already. You got to have a relationship with a lender so that you have a cashier's check with you. And the way I've done this before, I'll admit I've never bought at an auction, but I've tried, is I will have like $100,000 cashier's check and then a succession of 10,000s with me or something like that. It all depends on what I think I'm going to buy the house for. Yunli, you have another question?
I have a question. So when you're talking about auctions, are you talking about like the sheriff sales?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
The sheriff sales and the trust deed sales. Did you do any research on that?
Yes.
Yay, good. So I'm talking about
But
both.
there's all kinds of auction sites there you get registered for. Do you not deal with that at all?
So those are glamorous. Anything that's glamorous, I don't do.
Okay.
Okay, so I guess that's the one way to just say it. If there's like an auction, I can't even remember the names of the auction companies that used to come here, and it's really fun. You go to a house that has no power and there's all these people in it, and then there's an auctioneer and their sidekick who's setting up the microphone and the speaker box and that kind of stuff, and then they start auctioning off the house, and it goes for way more than it's worth. You as an investor know that was ridiculous, and it'll be somebody who's from nowhere near here that buys it, somebody who's got money from back home kind of thing.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they like just bought their first house. But in that case, those live auctions where they're on site at a house, like I just described, you have like 24 hours to get them the money, something like that. You don't have to have the money with you then at that. But if you're going to the sheriff's auction or the trust deed auctions, and these are both done at the county courthouse, the sheriff's auctions are at Lane County, the sheriff's auctions are in the sheriff's office, which is in the Lane County courthouse, which is downstairs. You don't have to go through the for either one of these auctions, you don't have to go through the metal detector. The trust deed auctions are just in the foyer of the Lane County courthouse. And I'm assuming Matt and Brenda is the same in Douglas County between the two types of auctions. Oregon is a dual type of trust deed / mortgage state. So the mortgages go to the sheriff's auctions and the trust deeds go to the trust deed auction. So basically it's an attorney the attorneys are driving the auction for the trust deeds, but the person that's running the auction is it's almost like an Uber driver. Just somebody does that. Just does the auctions. It's a gig for them. Okay. All right. Either one of those, you have to have the checks with you. Okay. So what you want to do as a wholesaler is you want to learn how to track auctions. You want to know how to get the lists. You want to know what all the terms means, like such as trust deed and mortgage. You want to know what a lis pendens is. You want to know all sorts of stuff. Matt and Brenda, your hand is raised again.
Yes. So, sorry, let me think. So
Okay.
back on with the auctions, when they are being done at the courthouse or at the sheriff's office, wherever it is, prior to the auction, other than doing a drive-by, are you able to arrange to get in to look at the home?
Oh, so I like your question very much. Just checking my time. Okay. What I do when I'm working an auction list, and that's where I'm going to right now, is how to work the auction list, is I'm going to try to get a hold of the person who owns the house, who's about to lose the house, and talk to them and see if I can buy it before it goes to auction. So yes, I want to get inside. And I think we've talked about this, a lot of us have talked about how a person that's, you know, really going to through foreclosure is not the kind of person that's going to want to show you the house. I've had them show me the house before, but still think that they can get like a whole lot of money, and it's not, and the auction's not going to happen, and just be in this state of denial. So if you can get a hold of somebody who is not in a state of denial and see if you can buy the house from them before the auction happens. So why would I do that? You're learning to read the auction list. You're reading in the auction list or the pre-foreclosure list that the property is owned by so-and-so. They either live in it or they don't live in it. It's all this information's on the list. That the note that is causing the auction, that is, upside down, that they haven't been paying on, has a balance due of such and such, plus attorney fees, plus interest, plus penalties. Okay, so those 4 things there. So then you figure out basically how much it is that the bank wants, the mortgage company, and the attorneys want, and then see if the house is worth more than that. Now you've got a prospect here of buying the house from the person who's in pre-foreclosure for more than what the auction is asking. And so they get some money so they can move on. So let's say that the pre-foreclosure notice says that such and such owes $200,000 on the house. And that once it's fixed up, it will sell for $400,000. But you got to put $75,000 into it. So now you're at $275,000 plus your 25%, whatever that you're going to need to make and all that kind of stuff. So let's say you figure out that you can afford to pay that seller an additional $25,000 after the $200,000 for their house. So now you're going to buy the house for $225,000. It's going to go through your escrow agent, and they're going to pay off the loan. The escrow does, through your $225,000. All right. So now this becomes, now I'm saying this like as if I'm actually buying it, but you as a wholesaler have got to think of that as how the flipper is going to do it. The flipper is going to want to buy your contract that you have for $220,000, and they are going to pay all that to the closing. The seller gets $20,000 to walk away and move to California. You get an additional $20,000 that you put on the assignment fee because it was really worth $250,000, but you wanted to sell it fast. So you made it at 240, or I've totally forgotten my math by this point in my scenario. So sorry. Yanli and Kate, do you have a question?
I do. So you named the 4 things.
Yeah.
What about like if they've got a lien against the property because they had a new roof put on and they didn't pay it? Do I need to do some kind of title search or something before I sell it?
So, okay. You can still market it, okay?
Okay.
But the title company finds out that there is another lien on it, all right? That you
Yeah.
did not expect, all right? Maybe it's a second mortgage, because that happens too. And that's not mentioned in all of those documents that you're looking at. So then you go back to the seller and say, I can't buy it for that much.
I see.
And
Okay.
so if it's like a roof and it's $7,000, then that's going to come out of, you go back to the seller and you say, you know what, you're not going to get 20,000, you're only going to get 13 because you owed for a roof.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay.
So
So you go back and renegotiate.
you can renegotiate, but you know what, you know who really tells that bad news to the seller is your escrow company.
Okay.
They'll send them out the closing documents, you know, by email or whatever, and they'll be like, oh, they found that I owed the roofer. Dang.
Mhm.
It's usually not you that's doing that, okay? But in a case where you're gonna actually have to back out because like it has a second mortgage and now it's way beyond or whatever, then yeah, you go back to the seller and say, I can't buy it for that much. In the case of a short sale, now I'm going way out there. Okay, so this could happen. You're going to want to learn this in your tool belt is short sales. So say that they owe more than it's worth. In that case, then you got to work a short sale, and that's a whole nother topic. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So as working auctions, you want to know how to talk to the person that's in pre-foreclosure. Talk to escrow companies about getting the list. And at escrow companies, who do you talk to get that list?
The secretary.
The salespeople. The salespeople is who you talk to. Yeah. So you're looking for the marketing person. Their website will show it. And then you also want to start learning how to talk to attorneys, the trustees, that especially for the trustee deeds sales. Okay, they're all fun stuff to do. So let's see. I'm looking at my notes here to see if I missed anything. All right. Oh, now okay. So I'm going to go a little bit deeper in talking to the seller. Okay. All right. So you're talking to somebody who's in pre-foreclosure. The thing that you really got to do is be attuned to them, not talk about what you can do, but hear all their problems first. All right. Because once you get to understand where their pain is at, then you can figure out how to relieve that pain. Trying to think of one. I had one where, yeah, it was in pre-foreclosure, and her pain was she didn't want the rest of the people in the house to know that she was about to lose the house. So it had to be all a secret deal. And she needed help moving to an apartment before the house was sold. So like, I mean, what do? I give her $5,000 up front before I buy the house. And again, I wholesaled this house. So I give her $5,000 check so she can move to an apartment. She tells the other people living in the house that she's moving, you got to move. I'm moving, you got to move. I'm moving into an apartment. I can't take this big house anymore. It's falling apart, blah, blah, blah. So that's what we did. I got her $5,000. I write up an agreement that says that I paid her $5,000, and that goes towards the purchase of the house, right? So now I'm selling that agreement along with the receipt of the $5,000, and I'm selling that to the ultimate flipper now as part of that. So sometimes you make amendments to the purchase agreement that will include something like that, or extending the date, a common amendment to my agreements is extending the date. So like, yeah, I was trying to sell in 30 days. It didn't happen, so I need another 30 days or what have you. But first thing in negotiating is to listen to the seller, asking the right questions, and developing trust between the two of you. They need to trust you, and it would help for you if you could trust them that they're telling you exactly what they really need. All right. If you inflate your importance and all that you can do, you're not developing trust. The biggest thing you can do to develop trust is say, when they tell you something and they need something, say, I don't know if I can do that, but I will work on it. I hear that's very important to you, and I'll get back to you. So instead of just saying, yeah, we do that all the time, make it like it's very personal between me and you, and I will work on it. And then when you come back and say, you can do it, this is what I can do, they're very, very appreciative of your work. Yes, Matt and Brenda.
So if you are talking to a seller and they say, well, I don't have the money to be able to move. Well, so for someone like Matt and I, who don't readily have a couple $1,000s to offer them, how would you say, okay, once this closes, then you'll have an extended let's amend the contract that you can stay here for another 30 days.
That's the possibility.
And okay. And then once everything closes and they have the money to
Yep.
move. Okay.
Yeah,
Because
that's a possibility. In the case where I had to pay her up front, she needed to move quickly before the house was sold. She didn't want it out before the house was sold. Another thing, I mean, you could have that in your agreement, find your flipper and let them know they need to pay $5,000 up front to the seller, right? Like, yeah, so part of this agreement is that you're paying the moving cost or something like that. I mean, you could have it that way too. I had a checkbook. I mean, I had the money, I could do it. But I've seen plenty of wholesalers contracts where the person has another 30 days before they move after the date. And that's another reason why it's very important that B, the wholesaler, shows C, the end buyer, the agreement, because they got to know what they're buying. And if you found out that you just closed and then you look at the agreement and you're sitting there signing all the documents and you see, wait, what's this? They're not going to be vacating until another month from now? Wait a second, because that's a lot of money to a flipper, because that's holding costs. So it's like their interest rates. I mean, they didn't figure that in. So the flipper needs to know what that agreement is. So that's B and C have to, what you're selling is the contract, all right, not the house. I keep saying that, so hopefully that sinks in. Some more things, let's see. Ooh, I'm gonna see where I'm on that. Sellers. Okay, we're talking about to sellers. I'm gonna move on to another slide here. Negotiating, making offers. Okay, now due diligence has to do with, okay, so you wholesaling and flipping have much in common. Let me go back. Hang on one second. Sorry, guys. Ugh, I don't do that anymore. So I'm going to just mention this. There is a common guru thread. I don't know what to call it. A common guru, real estate gurus teaching that you make 3 offers to the seller, and by that it means one's a cash offer, one is like they hold the note and you're making payments to them. Another might be that they get to live in it for a while and you're paying them a little bit up front and then they move out. I mean, so it's like basically like you're like, instead of giving them one solid deal, you're giving them 3 to choose from. And I have learned that does not work. The confused mind says no, basically. but a lot of gurus are teaching that, and they'll come and they want you to invest money so you can learn all these different ways of having 3 offers. I mean, seriously, if you're going to have 3 offers and you got to have all these, you got to have 9 ways to present, basically. So I just, if you're listening and negotiating, you're coming up with what works for them, and just have 1 offer. All right. So that's my side note. The confused mind says no. Okay, now we're going to numbers. So when you're in this business, you got to know how much it's going to cost for the flipper to rehab it. So you can't just say, oh, it's so many square feet, so it's going to take some dollars per square foot average for a flip is blah, blah, blah. Well, that's not true. It depends on how bad the house is, right? It depends on where it's at. It depends on a lot of things. So you got to know your neighborhood. Ooh. Oh, I had one yesterday contact me, wants to sell me her house, and in her comments it said that she just needs it to go. I drove by the house, and it's in Springfield. It's in a rough neighborhood, and it's the ugliest one in the neighborhood. And yes, the house needs to go. It needs to be bulldozed. I was not able to get a hold of her to talk any numbers or anything, but she said she was living in it. And when I went and looked at it, it has to be condemned because the back end of the house is falling in. It's imploding. So, and so my thought was, as I'm driving away, there's no way that I would flip that house. B, I don't know of anybody that would bulldoze that property and say, yeah, this is a great place to add a new house, because it's an ugly neighborhood. So it's just not an investment worthy property. That's part of knowing your numbers, knowing your area. You got to know how much it costs to put in flooring. You got to know how much it costs to put in kitchens. You got to know difference between what kind of kitchen you would put in, if you're going to put in a state-of-the-art kitchen in the house, or would it be just like Formica kind of countertops as opposed to cultured marble, you know, all sorts of things. So you need to know those kind of things. And we have, through the RIA, we have that excellent program that helps you figure out how much it costs to flip a house. Okay, I have a side note here. Oh, wait, couple things. End game. Okay, your end game, always remember, is that as a wholesaler, you're selling to a real estate investor. 80% of those people are going to be flippers. 20% of the people you might reach might move in, and it's their new house. Okay, so I go with the 80-20 rule in almost everything I do. So the 80-20 rule is 80% of them are going to be flippers and 20% are going to be somebody that's moving in. I had an excellent wholesale deal in Astoria a couple years ago. It's one of my favorites. I had to go all the way to Astoria, and I've always wanted to go to Astoria. So my husband and I spent the weekend there. We wrote it off, right? Stayed at the really nice hotel, and and I had to go there just to get the keys and put up a lockbox. And I wasn't going to find someone else to do it because I always wanted to go to Astoria. Well, I ended up selling that house for $40,000 assignment fee to a contractor who had just gotten divorced and was living in his trailer in his friend's driveway. And I sold it on Craigslist. So yeah, a contractor who could fix it up, and now had beds. It came with beds and 3 refrigerators. So he was just super happy, and he just thought it had to be a trick, but it wasn't a trick. He really got it all in that deal. The end game is, as a wholesaler, you do a lot of networking, you do a lot of marketing, and you do find buyers. By being in the RIA, you have buyers automatically, okay? But the more buyers that you find out there that come to you through your advertising and that kind of thing, all the better. And I also want you to be somewhat picky in your acquisitions. Don't like the one that I told you about yesterday that I drove by. I did put my card in her door, but I just like, there's no way that I know of anybody that would want that unless, I mean, because there's so many vacant lots, unless I could get it really cheap, right? If I could get it really cheap, if I could get it, one of my things I say to sellers is, so the real estate property value per Lane County says that the land value is A, the added house to the property is A plus B, right? So that's C, and that's where they based your taxes. Then they add this other thing, which is retail market value, and that's way higher, right? If I can get it just for the land value minus the cost to bulldoze the house, then I would definitely consider buying that house, getting it under contract. So in other words, I'm getting maybe the piece of land for $30,000 when Lane County says it's worth $40,000. And then I could sell it for 40 and somebody else can do the dirty work. Okay. All right. Finally moving on. 15 minutes. Wholesale. Wholesaling and flipping have a lot in common. And that's why I want you as wholesalers to know what a flipper has to do. There are flippers in the group, in the RIA club, that have bought almost all their houses from wholesalers that they flipped, and they flip a lot. Okay. So wholesalers are very much needed. And I know that now that you're looking around and you're driving your house, looking at houses, and you are seeing all these houses now that need to be flipped, right? Can't see you, but I'm assuming you're nodding your heads. Okay. But one of my slogans is making neighborhoods great again. So that's where I'm at when I say we need wholesalers. We need more wholesalers. We need more people out there making deals with sellers. All right. We need less people losing their house to auctions and getting the money up front. All right, moving on. The marketing deal. All right, how to find sellers is you can do the bandit signs. Oh, you can do a website with using Google Ads and SEO, search engine optimization. I'm guessing that Kevin's the only one on here that knows what that is. Mailers, that's what I do. I send mail, and I have the website, and I have the SEO. I don't do Google AdWords. I tried that. Now hiring somebody to do that, and that was just throwing money down the drain. But the main thing is getting leads from your escrow company. Okay, let's talk about getting leads from the escrow company, and I think I will. Okay, I'll go back to that in just a second. What I want to show you now is the day in the life of a wholesaler. If you're really going to do this, and make it your priority, you can see you get a list, you research the phone numbers, and you start making phone calls. So Monday is you sit down and you crank out phone calls, 100 phone calls on Monday. You might get a hold of 5% of those. Well, that's actually 20%. And talk to 20 property owners. Okay. Out of those 20, you might make 4 appointments. Out of those 4 appointments, they might hold only 2 people are actually there when you go, and get 1 signed contract out of those 2. Okay. You do the same thing on Tuesday, 100 phone calls. You get a hold of 20 and make 4 appointments, hold 2 appointments, sign 1 contract. So you see, it would be great. I'm sure you would say, if I could get 1 contract a week, I'd be super busy, and you would be super busy with 1 contract a week, because then comes Thursday and Friday, You've got to create announcements, put it up on the Rio website that you've got this property to wholesale. You got to send out emails. You got to text people. You got to hold more appointments to show the houses from last week's contracts. And then you got to sell the contracts. So you see, it can be a full-time job. That's why there are companies that have salespeople working for them out of Portland and Seattle that do all this kind of work. Has anybody here, I'm going to stop screen share. Anybody here heard of Guerrilla Capital here in Eugene? So you've been here long enough, Kate, to know of Guerrilla Capital. So Guerrilla Capital is still here. Guerrilla Capital was formed by two gentlemen back like in 2008, maybe. And they worked this market of foreclosures big time. So one was a CEO from Apple, like not a CEO, but he was, he was a brain from Apple. And the other one is a contractor, construction worker here in Eugene. They get together, they put their heads together and they make a system for wholesaling. So they developed Guerrilla Capital. They extended to, I mean, they were getting all the houses from the auctions here, basically. They get a capital pool of money too. So that's the capital part. They were getting funders from the pool of money, people they knew they were putting in for the money for that. Now, oh, and then I was gonna say they extended, they were in 8 states last I remember, but then when other people got good at wholesaling around here, they backed out of that wholesaling part. Actually, the partnership broke up. Ben Baser, he was the contractor guy. He didn't want to do that anymore. He wanted to actually do the hands-on construction stuff. He didn't really like the whole wholesaling thing. So John Helmick, who now runs Guerrilla Capital by himself with his entourage, they now are good sources of money for the flipper or for the wholesaler, whoever's going to the courthouse that needs money to buy that day. They are somebody you should write down and see if you can find out what their program is for you to be able to get to go to the auctions and represent Guerrilla Capital, sort of, but it's actually you, okay? So they are probably getting back into that game now. I mean, obviously they couldn't do it for the last 3 years, so I haven't looked them up. I am assuming they're still there, guys. I actually don't know that. So Matt and Brenda, go ahead.
So I had a question when you were going through the list before you stopped sharing the screen and talking about the next step. So after you make the appointments, you get the contract, and then so even at the beginning of the webinar, you talked about showing the house. And I guess I'm not grasping that concept. Is it that you're asking to come back with like your inspector and to take pictures so that you can market that to the end buyers? Or are you talking about actually showing the house to the end buyer?
It could be both. It could be both. It could be so like, again, what I'm saying is it's a conversation between you and the seller, right? So whatever works for them works for you now. Okay. So when I go to talk to a seller, I have my phone with me, and we've talked a lot about the problems. I mean, basically, the house is the last thing we talk about. We talk about the problems first. So then we go to, and then if I say, okay, well, let's see the house. Do you mind if I take some pictures? I see so many houses, I really need to take the pictures to remember it. But I'll remember the seller, but I won't remember the house. That's me. I will remember the seller. I'll remember things that were said, but I won't remember the house. I mean, I could get back to my program and go, How many bathrooms were there? I remember one bathroom barely, and there was probably two or something like that. So I won't, how many bedrooms were there? I won't remember. So, so because what I will remember is the cellar. So if I need to go back and see the house again, I mean, I'm leaving with the assumption that I'll be back. Not every time do I have the contract already written up. Sometimes I'll have a contract with me that just has the price blank in there, and the closing date and that kind of stuff. But usually even if I'm talking to them over the phone, like the Astoria deal, the seller was in Arizona. So that was all over the phone, email and phone. It was a probate house.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay. And when I don't want to get you too off track. I
It's okay.
apologize.
Let me say one more thing though about it, okay? The
Yes.
lockbox. I get a key and I bring a lockbox. All right. I'll bring a lockbox even before I bring the contract. Because what do I want? Yeah, I want a contract, but I want the key. So I'll bring the lockbox, get their extra key, put it in the lockbox, and they know it. They don't know the code either. But this is distressed sellers. What do they want? They want to get rid of the house. So you bringing a lockbox is like, it's like, oh, thank you.
Okay. Okay.
And so
And-
you go see the house now that I have a lockbox. Anybody that I share the code with.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you have a formula that you use to come up with the offer
Yeah.
in order to write up the contract? Because like I said, I've read in books and then I've been online, and there seems to be so many different ways, different percentages of how people are doing a formula. So I don't know what is kind of the standard for Oregon, or if it's just you kind of do your own thing within a range.
So at the last meeting, and you were there, I showed, I think I did. I think that was the last meeting when you were there. I showed my rehab estimator program. Okay, and then I showed how there's national averages, Oregon averages, and my averages. Basically, it becomes my average because I'm using whatever when I'm putting in those figures. One of the last things it asks is, what is my profit margin, right? So you can put in any percentage there. If I'm looking at a nicer, bigger house that's going to sell for a lot more, I'm going to make that profit margin 20%. If I'm looking at flipping a 900 square foot house, I'm going to make that profit margin maybe 30%. Okay, because I'm looking at more dollars with a higher profit margin, but it's less dollars because the house price is a lot less in the in sale. Okay, so am I looking at as a flipper? Am I looking to make 5,000, 10,000? Well, I like to make 40,000 is what I like to make as a flipper. But as a wholesaler, then you're coming up with probably 5,000 with that whole system of how it works out for the wholesaler to get 5,000. But if you make that margin bigger, then you're going to be able to get a higher profit. It all really comes down to that negotiation in the beginning. Yeah, the negotiation, and we'll talk more about it next time, is that when you're going through the house, and I think I said this the other couple weeks ago, is that I will honestly make the mistake of saying, oh, it's not that bad. I've seen way worse, houses. But I shouldn't say that. I should say, oh my gosh, is this carpet stretched? Like that would be like, that's what my house, the problem with my house is my carpet stretched in a couple of rooms because it's been there for 30 years. But anyway, but like I've had houses where I cannot even stand being inside the house because I'm gagging. So like I have to stand outside to negotiate. But when they say something's wrong with the house, like this one that I just bought on the 5th, Matt's gonna go to tomorrow. The seller was just like, well, we always wanted to fix this, but we never got around to it. But this slab needs to be, have terra firma come out here and put something under it. And it's just a slab that's an extra parking space, like for a trailer next to the driveway. So it's a third spot. And I was like, oh, that's terrible. Yay. I remembered once. Just say that's terrible. Oh yeah. Oh, that costs a lot of money. Yeah. So yeah, I don't care. I'm not fixing it. Matt, don't write it up. Okay.
I don't think that's a problem anyway.
What? It's not a
That's
problem with
not
the
a
house.
problem anyway.
It's not even near the house, basically. I mean, yeah. So yeah. So what time are you coming? Because I do want to be there, I decided after all. I want to learn from you.
I was planning on being there around 10, if that's okay.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So it's not done. We're not, the ice storm put us behind a week. I think I told you that. So there's like, I know you'll be taking pictures. There's cans of paint around, ladders around, appliances moved out. I don't have my new appliances in yet. So, but it is what it is, and I'm ready to go. So sound good? That's it for tonight, all. Now you have more questions than you have knowledge, right?
Yeah.
Thanks, Grace.
You're welcome. Thanks for being here. Let's see. Let me just check the chat. Let's see what I'm missing here. So Torin, you're still there. The recording, yeah, there will be a recording link on the RIA website that no, I will send it to you guys because you guys paid for this, so I will send it to you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
Hey, Grace, am I part of the, is my email part of this deal now? Because I
Let me
had to
look
go
and
through
see if it worked. Yeah, let me look.
KG Hughes.
It seems like I remember that you signed up. Let's see. Oh, I'm here.
Well, I gotta hop off. It's the wife's birthday, and
Who's that? What?
talk too much. It's Kevin.
Hi, Kevin. What'd you say?
I said I gotta hop off. It's the wife's birthday, and I don't want to piss her
Okay.
off too much.
All
So
right,
I'll
happy
talk to you guys
birthday.
later.
Bye, Kevin. Thanks for
Bye.
being here. All right, I'm checking you out. Anybody else that wants to say goodbye? Now's a good time. I'm just checking on a little admin thing for Kate here.
I just wanted to ask, I couldn't remember if you said that you were going to continue doing like a wholesale.
Yeah,
webinar
I'm gonna start doing this monthly. Okay, just
Okay.
And it's not as deep as the mentorship, and it doesn't have any, like lists or anything like that, but I'm just going to talk to you about how to wholesale, what wholesaling is. And we had a really good conversation tonight about the 2 different contracts, right? One between A and B and one between B and C. All right. So in the mentorship, you'll learn about those contracts. I'm not going to go into that in Wholesaling 101. Okay. So this is
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. It's just good to hear, when other people have questions, it's, oh, I wouldn't have thought to ask about that.
Yes. Yeah. And that's what's great. It is good. That is awesome. All right. Let's see here.
All right.
Come
Well, you
on.
all have a good night.
Bye-bye. Nice to
Bye.
meet you.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Have a
See
good
you
night.
tomorrow, Grace.
Oh, you can be there too. Great.
Yeah,
Oh,
I'll tag along.
Hey, are you going to, the members only mystery meetings next week. Oh, I was thinking it was tomorrow night too. So if you want to reschedule, we could do it next Wednesday and you stay for the mystery meeting too.
Oh, maybe. We'll look at our calendar.
Okay,
and see if
let me
that'll work.
know. Just text me, okay? All right.
Okay.
All
All
right.
right. Thanks, Grace.
You're welcome. Thanks. Let's see.
Bye.
Okay, Kate. Let's see if you registered. It's a little slow.
Yeah, she registered this time.
No,
Huh?
no, I have Yanli.
But she paid the money this
Yeah,
year.
so if you went in to register, did you try, Kate, to register?
Yeah, she did.
I did. I registered just a couple nights ago.
Yeah, so I got,
Use her email. Yeah.
But I think you were popping up again on mine, on my information.
yeah, no, so,
Mm-hmm.
and you got, try this, go into the RIA and
Hang on
sign
just
up.
a second. Do you have a minute?
Yeah, sign up for next week's members only mystery meeting, okay? Because it's kind of hard to sign up for something that already happened.
Oh. So that means every time I have to be forward the email to her. Otherwise, she don't
No,
know.
she's supposed to be getting them now.
Yeah.
Because I don't, let me, let me let me look at her thing again and see if it's still not working.
Okay, so I'm in the RIA. I'll sign in.
Okay, and I'm checking to see if you have bounced emails. No bounced emails.
Incorrect password.
Oh, that's loading in there.
You want me to send you a password?
Yeah.
Where is that button? Okay, I just sent you password reset instructions. See if it worked. kghughes35@gmail.
Yes.
What's your middle name?
Gail.
Ah,
Yes. Okay, it's very slow.
oh yeah, it's slow.
Weird.
I can give you the temporary password.
Okay.
If you want to try that instead of, if you're on the RIA website still. Okay, so this is all caps. And it is G, Y, Q, D like David, H, W, H, K.
Okay.
See if that works.
And then it says, yeah, create a new password.
Okay. Well, that's good. That's a good sign.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I'm going to stop the recording.